Welcome to the Market Me podcast with your host, Mike Mall. Each episode of Market Me deconstructs real campaigns for actual businesses to improve their marketing efforts. Mike is the founder of Social Media House and a digital marketing consultant who teaches marketing strategy to executives and their teams from small business to Fortune 500 companies. Let's get started.
On this episode of the Market Me podcast, we're speaking with Sergio Nazzaro from S8.
8Z.
8Z, damn it. Real estate.
We're
Almost got it. Sometimes I don't know what it is about names, but sometimes I'm just awful. So I apologize, but thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. There's so many real estate companies out there. They're hard to keep them kind of separated. So no problem there.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for coming. I want to dive right in and we talked a little bit about branding and marketing and how you got into the real estate game before we kind of jumped on the call. So I'd love you to fill in that story and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. So my story with real estate actually starts when I was a kid, right? So about 20 years ago, I live in Denver now, but I used to live down in Houston, Texas, because that's where my mom's from. And at the time, my parents were trying to buy a house, and it was going to be our first home down in Texas, and we were renting. And at the time, it was stated income. So you basically, in order to get financing for it, you told the lender how much you would make. They'd give you the cash, you'd buy the home. Well, my parents received bad advice, and they put the wrong amount of money down on the application. They checked their employment. They ended up getting fired. We ended up being homeless, which is how we came out to Colorado. And I couldn't afford to go to college. And so I had to work my tail off. And luckily, I got appointed to go to the Air Force Academy. Graduated from there, served in the military for 6.5 years. And as I got out, I had one of those moments where I was like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm going to do. I need to figure this out. And like any good person who doesn't know what they're going to do, I went back to school and got my MBA because it was free. And it was during then that I realized that, I had a real skill set in project management when I was in the Air Force and human interaction as a coach, opening up a CrossFit gym. And I think bringing those two together is what led me to really pursue real estate, knowing that I didn't want the same narrative to happen to somebody else that happened to my family. And so that's how I got in.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. That's quite a tragic downturn from applying for a home loan all the way through that. That's a pretty crazy sequence for it to happen that way.
Yeah, it was interesting as a kid, right? You witness one of those things and you don't really know the magnitude of it and you definitely don't understand it. But when your mom is consoling your dad and, the natural gender roles as a child are much different than that. It was the first time I saw my dad crying. I was like, oh, that's not good. Right. And so you just don't know what's going on. So it was quite the series of events, but it's what led me to here. So I can't really be too upset about it.
Absolutely. And so when you were in the Air Force, I guess you can't, how does that work actually? I don't even know. Did you get paid to be in the Air Force while you're doing school there?
So they give you a small stipend, right? As a freshman, you get about $100 a month. And as a senior, I think you're getting about $600 a month. So school is free and you get that a little bit of money, but you have to serve for 5 years after graduation to give back your time, right? So you have to have 5 years of service. And so after graduation, I was supposed to go to pilot training and decided to turn that down because it was a 12-year commitment and ended up getting into working on nuclear defense systems and satellites. So yeah, it was an interesting series of events and it's not something I ever thought I would do.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And so obviously I understand the motivation going into real estate was, hey, I can help people not go through what I went through. It seems that I'm a people person, which is typically a good indicator or a good trait for real estate. I mean, you have to be liked, people have to trust you. And so when you come into it, you dive into, your first brokerage, your first job, kind of how did you start getting off the ground? Because it didn't seem like you had any roots in real estate to actually get started. So how did you find yourself getting started in that?
So I went from an ecosystem in the military where it's very extremely structured. They tell you what to wear, what to do, where to be for years. And now I'm all of a sudden I found myself in the real estate, as an agent being like, what do I do? And I knew that I did well with structure. And so I found a mentor and a coach because I was like, if I'm going to do this, I want to be the best at this. So I hired a coach to help me, basically lay the foundation for all the skill sets, the tools, and everything else I needed to build up myself as a new agent, to build up the confidence. And so I hired a coach right out the gate. And I went to, one of those seminars. It was, as they say, life-changing. But for me, it truly was, because now I had a path. And so by hiring a coach and having somebody who has, walked that path and has success, well, now I have a blueprint. Now I have a framework. And I know if they can do it, there's no reason I can't do it. And I'll just do it my way.
Yeah, love that. I interview a lot of people who have success in all different fields. And it seems like the general consensus is gravitate to somebody who's done it, find out, you don't have to always make the same mistakes as they did. You're going to make some anyway, find new ones, I guess, as they say. But yeah, that's a really common thread that I hear from people that have success in what they do, is by seeking out that mentorship. I do wish I had actually done it sooner in my process as well, because you just say, well, I'll figure it out my way, the highway, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But years and hours and thousands and probably tens, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars of mistakes, might have made sense to go a different direction. So
I think it's a healthy balance of both, because I don't want to do it the way he did it, right? I don't want to try and be somebody else that I'm not. I'm not going to fake it, as they say, till I make it. But my thought at the time was, this is going to take, my vision was like, this is going to take 5 years, right, to really build something. And so I can either make that as hard as possible and do it on my own, or maybe I can even condense that beginning part and get really good and build a skill set up front so that I can create some longevity down the road. So by finding that individual and who was a mentor, yeah, he taught me a lot, but I still had to learn and make a lot of mistakes on my own. So I think it's the combination of both that really starts to build like that perseverance and the ability to do it the right way and build something that's organic.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so now, sought out somebody who had the experience that you didn't have. They helped you carve a path. They helped you carve a plan. So real estate, really a big part of it is about branding and marketing. You're the guy, you're the person that people have to trust. You're the person that people have to kind of dive in with. So how did you, especially early on, think about branding and marketing yourself?
That's, in the beginning, I was just doing what any real estate agent does. Here's how to bake cookies. Here's some local market stats. Here's, a home that I found. And there's nothing wrong with that, because in the beginning, I didn't really have a story to tell. And so I found myself doing what a lot of other agents do, and that is taking very templated, branding stuff and putting it out there to just build some awareness. And I think that's a really important part, right? I was out there being like, okay, I just want people to know that I'm in real estate, know that I'm excited about real estate, and also that this is my new career. And so I found myself gravitating towards things that every agent does and really starting to tell that part of the story on different social channels. It was basically Facebook and Instagram. That was it. And so that's where I really started. And that, it felt like it was something that I had to do, not that I wanted to do. And now that's kind of started to shift.
Yeah, perfect. That actually leads me into the next kind of question. So punching it out, getting stuff out into the atmosphere, into the social media ecosystem, that is, to me, it's a table stakes thing, right? You've got to do it, or who's going to know what you're doing. So how has that evolved now? And how do you put a personal spin? Because what you said before was that you didn't really have a story. You didn't really have a narrative. So did you find that you crafted that narrative through the experience, or you have now taken all of your kind of story and your past and the things that you've done, and you've crafted that into the brand story that's you? How have you kind of developed your story since then?
Yeah. So the story that I told you at the beginning of this interview there was a moment when I realized that if I wanted to make this something of my own, I had to be different. And if I wanted to create something that had some longevity to it and become a real career path, I had to do it my way. And so I was going to make this video about, because I know video is very powerful, and get it out, as you said, into the social, ecosystem. And so I started to create this thing, and the director was like, that doesn't even sound like you. He's like, it sounds like a sales pitch. I was like, well, I'm not a salesman. He's like, I know. He's like, what are you trying to accomplish here? And so we sat there and we really peeled back of the story I told you of like why I'm here, like why I'm doing this and why I do what I do. And so that was the catalyst, right? That one video that is in my email signature, that's, you know, on YouTube now, it's everywhere, is that's really what taught me that telling my story from why I got into real estate and then every other story along the way, whether that's a client story of struggles that they've had or struggles that I'm currently going through and trying to overcome, sharing that story builds a brand and it allows people to connect with me before they ever even meet me. And so that became the goal, is like I wanted people to see who I was as Sergio, the real estate agent, the son, the fiance, the friend, the, you know, the person who likes to snowboard, all these different things, all these different sides of me. And by capturing that story, people can either be like, hey, I like you, I want to work with you, or you are not the person I ever want to see again. And in fact, I'm not going to follow you anymore. And to me, both of those are okay options.
Yeah, I agree. That's a big part of why I do kind of video first communication. Whether I'm doing outreach or whether I'm having any kind of conversation, I try and actually send video or audio, because sometimes you just don't like the sound of someone's voice, or you don't like their face and you don't know why, but that's how it is. And so cutting through that line earlier, in my opinion, and I agree with you, is a lot better. You said that you actually put the story in your email signature, which was interesting. You know, so now any first or second or third or random point of contact is getting that ahead of it. How do you feel that that has allowed people? I mean, obviously, deciding if they like you or not is a good kind of first step. But do you think that that's been a big component of for your success? Do you feel like having that out there and like letting however many people who've seen it, do you feel like that's a thing that's really helped you succeed so far?
I think it's helped me succeed because it's forced me to want to get really creative as I move forward and start to really continue to build out this personal brand. Having it in my email signature because I'm like you, right? When I first meet somebody, whether it's an internet lead or somebody that I don't know very well, once we've connected, I'm going to pick up the phone and send them a video message. Be like, hey, you know, Mike, it was great talking to you. I really appreciate you taking the time. If you need anything, here's my information. Right? So that they have it. They can see my face, right? And they're not reading the text in their voice, because if they're in a bad mood, that's how they're going to read it, right? And so I try to capture the same thing in the video, because I never know who's going to forward that email. I never know where that's going to go. But what I do know is that if somebody were to click on that and they were to just take a few seconds to watch it, if they like me, there might be an opportunity for us to work down the road. But more importantly, if they see that, now they might go check me out on other platforms and get a really good snapshot of who I am. And then what I've found is when people say, hey, you know, I found you on Instagram or I found you on Facebook or whatever the case may be, and we sit down to have a meeting, it's no longer about me trying to build rapport and explain who I am. They already understand that. They've already made that decision that they want to sit with me. And now the initial conversation can be more tailored about them and what they're trying to accomplish. And then that makes it so much more productive, because it's not me trying to flaunt or be arrogant about me. It's me making it specifically tailored to them so that they walk out of that meeting feeling like they got what they wanted to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. I love that. So what advice would you give to somebody, you know, whether it's real estate or otherwise? I mean, I really like this idea of, you know, give some of yourself, give anybody that's going to make contact with you some awareness and the ability to kind of pre-vet you in some ways. What advice would you give for somebody? Because obviously you sat down with somebody who helped you take the video. They gave you feedback when they felt like it wasn't you and it didn't quite hit the right Sergio way. What advice would you give to somebody who might be thinking that, hey, this is a great idea, I think I should make my story? What did you kind of learn from your experience so far that might be of help?
It's going to suck at first, right? Like you're going to, I mean, my fiance tells me this all the time, not so much anymore because I think it's gotten better, but you're going to put out a video or you're going to make a video about you, and you, unbeknownst to you, you're going to have like this stage voice, and people are going to be like, people who know you're going to be like, that, whoa, that's not the real version of you. And you're going to put out videos that, you know, you're telling the story, but maybe you don't think it's good, but maybe your audience thinks it's incredible. And so my advice would be just get the reps in. Do as many as you can, and the path will start to become clear as you start to walk. So do the videos, take the feedback, right? Watch the tape, go back and be like, oh, I can change this, I can change that, right? Take advice from people that you can trust are going to be honest with you, and then just continue to iterate and try and be better. But just know that it's a process. And I'm in the middle. I mean, I'm in year 18 months into this, and I'm still going back and being like, oh, I could do this better. Oh, that, this is not quite my voice yet, but I'm getting closer. And I think it's just, that constant process of, moving towards where you want to be and taking feedback, but don't taking it personally. Just realize that people are trying to help.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. And so you've had some success kind of early on, and you've kind of got this this great lift from the beginning. How do you market in general as a real estate agent for you? What's worked really, really well for you? Because I think you, like you said, at the very beginning, you get stuck in this, okay, well, this person posts this, or they make, these posts about the housing prices or the monthly stats or different things like that. And obviously, I guess it is important to some extent to share that, but I feel like when I see those posts, I'm like, great. If I was following a bunch of agents in the area, I would probably see everybody posting the same thing. So how do you think about setting yourself apart, and how do you market yourself now? I mean, obviously, in my opinion, that word of mouth is always the best. Someone who had a great experience is likely to pass you on, but how do you market for new business right now? How are you focused on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly that, right? Like, I really work on staying in touch with the people that I've worked with and just my network of friends, right? Whether that's through, because this is multidimensional for me. Part of it's this passive role of, and I say passive because people can't tell me no when I'm marketing, is putting these videos out there of telling my clients stories about their experiences, both working with me, some of their fears, how they overcame it, and sharing those stories because people can relate to anybody, right? And so capturing all of these different experiences and then putting that out allows people to be like, oh, well, we're renting. Oh, and we thought we don't have 20%. Oh, we can actually buy a home. Let's talk to Sergio. Or let's talk to somebody else. At least Sergio sparked that thought, and that's fine too. The other part is making phone calls, and it's a lot of phone calls. And I think that's the more active, prospecting part of it, is somebody can tell you no. But what I've found to be successful on the marketing side of it is storytelling, telling things that maybe not the sexiest part about real estate. Like, hey, if you're going to go buy a home, these are the things, you should do when you interview a buyer's agent, whether that's me or somebody else. Ask these questions because you want to make sure that you're going to enter into a relationship with somebody that you care about. And it's giving people value and information so that they can make the right decision for themselves and their family. And if it's me, great. But if not, at least I know that what they're doing is they're going to find the right individual to work with that's going to help them on the journey that they're on.
Yeah. Lead with value. I love it. I'm in the, we think very similarly in that way. A lot of my content is, here's some information that will help you first. If that means that you need more information later and that means you want to pay me for it, great. But otherwise, at least you got it. So that's really cool. Do you actually do any paid marketing within that? Like, do you create videos and then run ads against them? Do you send out, how do you get it out there? Or do you stick to primarily organic posting and social and email list?
So I have an email list of, they get my marketing letter and stuff like that. On social, I tried running ads, and then I was like, what? My question was always like, your intent is your compass. Why are you doing this? Is it to get more followers? Is it to get exposure for your clients to help sell their home? And based on what the intent was, then I would put money behind it. And it was usually, if the intent was to help a client, then I would do it. But if the intent was to build up my fan base by paying people to follow me, that never sat well with me. And so I always just try to do that organically. And what I found is people share it with other people, and then I'll get people to follow me. Or when I meet a new client, we talked about how do you stay, kind of grow your business. Anytime I meet somebody new, I ask them, I'm like, hey, are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook? Because then that allows me to connect with them on a different level and stay in touch with them, know what's going on. And then they're more likely to share something that's relevant to them or a conversation that they had of somebody who's going through something that, I've experienced or a client has experienced. And I found that to be the most impactful.
Smart. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and I've just found I've been spending media dollars on social media for a really long time, and one one common thing is a lot of people will try and spend to raise their own followership. And on Facebook, you can actually run campaigns specific to getting, people to like your page. But when it comes down to it, the likelihood of those people actually being engaged users or engaged people with the page is fairly slim. It's not.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I'm going to pay for these people to follow me. And I was putting the metrics on the wrong thing, right? There's a phrase, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. My prize was all these followers. Okay, so like, what am I going to do with these people who kind of know me and follow me because I paid for an ad and they saw it once? There's no connection there. And so for me, I was like, I'm not playing the right game. So I actually took all of my marketing budget out, right? I pay some to, do some post edits on my videos and distribution of that. But I took my marketing budget out and I've actually reallocated that to put it back into client experiences. So whether that's their birthday, their anniversary, their home anniversary, I send them gifts that's tailored to them. And for me, that's my marketing dollars at work.
I love that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. So how do you move forward? Obviously, lots of work to do. 18 months in, you want to keep that kind of success and that moving forward. What are you the most excited about from a growth and marketing standpoint? Is there, have you started playing on TikTok? Is it just kind of stay the course, make more video, let people connect with me? Like what is Sergio excited about?
I love TikTok. Like, part of TikTok for me is just like a creative outlet. And I've found that if I can get good on there, editing, doing different types of cuts, whatever, it carries over to everything else. So I'm really excited about continuing to grow this as a what do I want to say? Like we're a media company first. I'm a media company first. I got to get all of that out there. And then the rest is just subsidiary to that. So I'm a real estate agent, but that comes from all of this. So I'm excited to expand on what I'm doing now and try new things because I know the stuff that works. The client interviews, the client testimonials, the just sold pictures, the pictures that are eye capturing. I know that stuff works, but that can also create like this stale environment because people will be like, oh, it's the same thing over and over again, right? So I'm excited to try new things. Like I'm actually working with a gentleman to start a weekly vlog. I don't know if anybody's going to watch, but I'm going to document what I'm doing. And maybe there's things there that spark a conversation. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm really excited about continuing to get better on TikTok, do more of these interviews, because this, in my opinion, I feel like is the most fun of all of it. Because I get to have conversations with people like yourself about, marketing and growth as entrepreneurs. And I think there's a lot of untapped potential for myself in that realm. Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Well, it was a pleasure getting to know your story and kind of walking through how you think about it. I mean, it's a lens that I full-heartedly agree with. And I love talking to other people who have kind of carved it out for themselves and are seeing success. Cause I think there's just something about being unapologetically you. I don't like the word authentic, but really it's just being you and letting people decide on what side of the like or dislike they lie at that point. So it's really interesting. Where is it best if people are interested in checking out some of your content and viewing your stuff? Where's the best place to find you?
I would say Instagram's probably the best spot, and my handle is Showdio. That's SHOWDIO.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate your time, and it was great to meet you.
Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it. Thank you again.
All right.